Good morning to all my beautiful girls and handsome boys. How are you all? Welcome to the Google Classroom of Sri Gokulam Public School. We all love to hear stories, don't we? Remember those KG class stories that we had heard? The story of the crow drinking water from the pot, the hare and the tortoise story, and of course, who can forget the story of the friendly mongoose? The monkey and the crocodile? There are so many of them. No matter what the age, still now we would love to hear such stories. And what's the speciality of all these stories? These stories always have a message, a moral, a thought-provoking value, which somehow changes us in our thoughts, words and actions. So today, my dear children, I'm going to tell you one such beautiful story. The Legend of the Northland. The next poem that we are going to study depicts about such a story with a moral value. It's a very simple story, so you can just enjoy as I narrate it out for you. This story is written in the form of a ballad. What do you mean by a ballad? B-A-L-L-A-D. What do you mean by it? It's a short story written in the form of a poem. The title of the poem, The Legend of the Northland. What do you mean by legend? Legend means a historical story which has been told from generation to generation. So this is a folk story or a ballad which has been told by word of mouth from generation to generation. Our story takes place in Northland. The poet or the narrator speaks about Northland as an unspecified place somewhere in the North Pole. So we can just imagine that this story is taking place somewhere in North Pole. In the first stanza of the poem, narrator is describing to us about the Northland. He says that it is somewhere far, far away. Probably he is trying to imply that it is somewhere in the North Pole. Hence, in the winter season, the night hours are longer than the day hours. Because of this reason, it is difficult or impossible for the people to spend the night time by only sleeping. In the next stanza, the narrator or the poet wants to imply on the severity of the cold condition that they are facing. He says that it is a snowy region and for traveling they uses sledges with reindeers tied onto it. Remember reindeers? The one that Santa Claus uses for traveling? Yes, the same reindeers. He also says that the children looks like the young ones of the bears because they wear furry clothes. The narrator then moves on to explain that he is not very sure that the story that he is going to say is true or not. However, he wants to narrate the story because it has got a moral message or value. Thus begins our story. The story is about Saint Peter, a disciple of Jesus Christ. Saint Peter used to move about around the world preaching religious matters to the people. Once Saint Peter reached the door of a cottage where a little woman was baking cakes in a fireplace. Hearth. Hearth means fireplace. As Saint Peter was very weak with fasting, he had not eaten anything the entire day. He asked the woman to give him one cake out of the many cakes that she had baked for herself. The woman was very selfish and she did not want to share her cakes with Saint Peter. So she went back to the fireplace and made a very small cake for Saint Peter. As she let it lay baking, she looked at it and she felt that it was too big to be given to someone. So what did the little woman do? She took another piece of dough and started to make a smaller piece of cake. But when she kept the cake for baking, again she had a feeling that it is too large. Now, for the third time, she took a very small piece of dough and rolled it till it became as thin as a wafer, and then she kept it for baking. Again, the greedy woman was not satisfied with what she saw. She didn't want to part with even that thin piece of bread that she had baked. Then she started complaining and told to herself that whenever she baked cakes, she felt it was too small when she ate them, but when she had to share it with someone, she always felt it was too large. So what did the little woman do? She took all her cakes and put it inside the kitchen shelf and told Saint Peter there was no cakes for him to eat. Saint Peter became very angry. He was very hungry and tired after a long day, and the greediness and the selfishness of the little woman was enough to anger him. In his great anger, Saint Peter cursed the little woman. He said that she did not deserve to live like a human being. God has given her everything, food, clothing and shelter, but she did not share anything with anybody. From this, Saint Peter wants us to realize that human beings are sent to this earth, or man is sent to this earth to serve other people and to take care of nature. This very important duty of man was not fulfilled by that little woman. So now she was cursed by Saint Peter to become a bird. He said that she had to build her nest like other birds do. Also, she would have to work very hard all day long to collect very little food by boring. Boring here means making holes. So boring into the dry, hard wood. So now just tell me, children, which bird makes holes in the wood to collect food? Of course, it is the woodpecker. So the little woman was cursed to turn into a woodpecker. As soon as Saint Peter cursed the little woman, she turned into a bird and flew onto the roof of the house through the chimney. She did not get any chance to repent or speak anything.